how does being a Black man from Baltimore impact how you set the tone for the Public Allies Baltimore programming?
Whew, that's a tough question. I think for me, there's a couple things I do. I think of I try to make sure that our recruitment process, that Black men see themselves in that, and so that's easy. So when they see me show up at interviews, when they see me show up, at recruitment events, or see our colleague Jasper show up at recruitment events, see us in this training space. I want to reflect like what it looks like to see Black men like healthily engaged in the in this community, because that's what we create in our programming, right? A sense of community. Um, and so in that small microcosm of of the cohort, like see us engage, modeling that, and hopefully that encourages the other Black men that participate to be engaged. I also though take a real good look and really try to balance out. Recognizing the space for Black men, but then also where that intersects around like misogynoir and how we navigate that, um, and try to help Black men understand like these are the things you experience, right? The and what you go through, and that those are valid, but that also Black women, on the other side are also experiencing these things, and sometimes we're the perpetrators, and that's because this is what this system has taught us, right? In these behaviors and how we interact with each other. And so I try to bring both of those perspectives. So I will try to make space for, as a Black man, and also make space for Black women in our program, and encourage Black women, but also balance that with understanding that like we need both Black men and Black women to be equally engaged, right? And building, co-creating community and building stuff together. And so for me, that includes everything. Like, yes, we're going to talk about racism, but we're going to talk about where that intersects with gender identity, where that intersects with sexual orientation, and help everybody, but especially Black men, understand like where the ideas we get about our identity and who we are and what masculinity, what are the ways we can talk about healthy masculinity, versus a much more patriarchal, misogynistic version that's not only unhealthy for women and Black women especially, but it's also self-destructive to us.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And like that cross section between Blackness as gender, because
Yeah.
we can't talk about it. We don't experience gender the same way white people do,
Right.
even though we have some similarities. Like
Mhm.
we, like being Black, just really like challenges
Yeah.
like concepts of gender so much for
Right.
us. It's really interesting.
And it also, and have them help people understand too that like when we talk about this is not a way of emasculating you, make you feel like less of a man, to make you feel less valuable, right? But this is talking about how do we then build programming then to see you, to see the value in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and to understand these concepts that helps you bring the best parts of yourself no matter where you go and what you're doing, right? And so how are you the best community member to other folks, right? Is to help you understand these concepts. I think also another thing I really try to do too is also to let folks, is try to build partnerships and see, you know, and this is harder because there are fewer Black men in the sector, but also see like there are Black men in leadership roles doing this work, and then find ways for them to engage with the program, which I think not only just benefits the Black men who are in the program, but also everybody, right? To see Black men as leaders in community, as engaging and wanting to be engaged in community. Because I think too often there's a stereotype that, again, men isolate and step away, and that this work is women's work, and that this is really only Black women are involved in this work. And I want them to see, not only just see Black men, but how Black men who are like healthily engaging in this work, and able to build effective relationships and partnerships with Black women and other folks in this work.
I agree. That reminds me of like, I think they said a statistic of like how Black men teachers are received, and there's so few of them, but they're generally very well loved, especially by their students, and how necessary it's for their students.
Across racial and gender boundaries. So
Mm-hmm.
even white children will give high marks to their black teachers all the way up and through about high school. And then we have the whole, racial construct thing, and, that kicks in. But like,
Mhm.
people, those black male teachers are valuable, and so
Yeah,
and I think those black male role models are valuable. And again, that's not to downplay the role of black women, but just to really understand we need both of us, right? Like that
definitely.
gospel song says, I need you to survive. And that goes
Hmm.
across both ways.
Yes, yes. All right, so the third question, let me get this in before you start screaming about Roblox again. What programs did you participate in during your lifetime that you felt like were safe places for Black men and or Black boys?
So I felt like I didn't have a lot of like programs and organizations per se, but I had a lot of men, right? And so I'll tell a story. So there was a guy who I grew up with. His name was Will, and he worked at Paul's Place Outreach Center. And he was 6'9". He was a former college basketball player and he grew up in Kentucky, but moved to Baltimore and ended up working at Paul's Place. And Will greeted every single person with a hug and a kiss. Every man, every woman. He would just wrap his arms around you and greet you with a hug and a kiss. And he would always tell you, "I love you." And I think that set the tone for me to show, but there was a sense that Will was strong. Like there wasn't, at least for me, I interpreted that like there was a strength in his love for other people. And so I remember always the toughest guys in my neighborhood would even, they might not tell anybody else they love you. They may not tell, their best friends. They may not tell their partners. But like if Will gave them a hug, they would be like, "Man, I love you too." And I think that there was such a power in that, and there was such a strength in that. And I think being able to see that modeled, I think affected my view of masculinity for my entire life.
Mm,
Seeing him be able, and he would hug everybody, everyone who came through the community center, hug, gave him a kiss, told him, "I love you," told him they were valuable, told them they were worth it, no matter what situations was going on in their life, how bad things were going. Like he always just had this positive thing to say to you, in this positive way of interacting with you that really let you know that he saw the humanity in you. Um um mm, and that was just so moving for me to see, and that was so influential in how I view my own masculinity, how even to how like interact with my kids. Like I make sure I tell my son, "I love you," and then I give him a hug and a kiss. Now he's kind of at the point where he thinks he's too cool for that,
yeah.
but I'm like, "You're only 5 years old. Like you're gonna get these hugs and these kisses for the rest of your life." But like I
Right.
think it just influenced so much about, to me, what it means to be a man. And be a man is to love people, to care about people, to build them up, um, to let people see that they're valid and valuable and worthy, um, despite what the world tells them. And so for me, that just, and I think as a kid at that point, like that was so influential, having Will in my life in that way. And so that has been such an influence on me. And then um, I think another thing, and it's funny, there's another guy, his name is Lamar Shields, Dr. Lamar Shields. Uh, I had worked for him as a teenager, and the thing I admired the most for me with him was how much he loved his wife and the interactions with his relationship, and he talked about her, and he supported her. His wife is a comedian, and like here's this man in this relationship. She's traveling across the country doing everything, and he was like her biggest cheerleader supporter.
Yes.
And so that model to me, like how you support your partner in whatever goals that they're trying to achieve, and like what does it look like to be that person's support system. Because I feel like there's other men who I knew who didn't do that, but he modeled that. And so I copy that even with my own wife. I'm like, no matter what, how you feel like, yes, you're worthy of that raise. Yes, you're worthy of that promotion. Yes, 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 yes. You know, and I see that in there. And so having those men in my life, so it wasn't programs, but they were just these men who just modeled that for me, and influenced everywhere, you know, I go and how I move, whether it's parenthood, whether it's professionally, you know, always telling folks I work with, yes, you deserve it, go for it, you know, yes, you're valuable, yes, you're worthy, yes, you know what, I'll I'll be the Pippin to your Jordan. How do I help support your dream? How do I support
Right.
you in this project? How do we, you know, get you to your next step? You know, how do we make sure you shine? How do we make sure everyone recognizes how great you are?